So it is 7:04 p.m. I'm calling the meeting to order. Good evening. I'm Wayne Benjamin, Chair of the Land Use Committee for Manhattan Community Board 12, and welcome to the February 7th, 2024 meeting of the committee. I would like to, before we get into the agenda, have my fellow committee members introduce themselves. So starting at my left.
I'm Vivian Ducat. I live in Southern Washington Heights, and I've been a public member of this committee for about 15 years.
Hello, everyone. My name is Anthony Viola. I am a member of the community board, recently elected secretary.
Bravo.
I've been serving for 1 year.
Hi, I'm Tracy McNeil. I'm a Southern Washington Heights, although I have not heard that term. I adore it. Member. This is my first year on the community. Obviously, then my first year on.
I'm Jim Berlin.
I'm afraid.
And no, the fact that I'm still here implies that I think it has great value. Important that participate. Not just, well, they may be, hundreds of people out there on the Zoom. Used to be in there where there were people down. Welcome.
Thank you, Jim. And also with us via Zoom is committee member OC. So OC, unmute yourself and say hello.
Hi, I'm Osi Kaminer.
Thank you. Thank you, Jamila, and I'm going to get to that. So we actually have two updates, one of which I'm going to present, and that's on the agenda, and that's pertaining to the BSA application for 2238 Cumming Street. And also Carmen De La Rosa's office had a meeting with the developer of that site on 184th. And so Jamila is going to give us an update on that. So just quickly regarding 2833 Cumming Street, as you know, every month Steve will ask what's the status, and I would point out that BSA said they were not going to make a decision until December. That got pushed to January 22nd. So on January 22nd, BSA finally made a decision. They approved that application, and that application is, or the project is, as of the project that was presented to us April of last year. That scope is an 8-story residential building with 121 units, 49 parking spaces. So it has a base height of 69 feet, 4 inches, and a total height of 89 feet, 8 inches. And the square footage is 87,673. And you all have this information because it's in the presentation from April, but I just summarize it so you don't have to go and look for it. So that
So the garage they couldn't build in November.
well, it's not the garage they couldn't build. They are, in fact, excavating rock, which people didn't want them to do to accommodate that. But that was part of the presentation in April. So that is the status of the BSA application. When Steve comes in, we'll repeat it.
That's right.
And so, Jamila, you should be able to speak, Jamila.
Yes, hi everyone. I'm still on my way home. I'm currently on the bus. So there will be some background noise.
Okay.
Is there any way that we can move mines to a little bit down on the agenda, or does it have to be?
Sure. No, we can do that because we've got a couple of presentations. So I guess when you are ready, let us know.
Yeah, I should be home in 25 minutes. Just
okay, that's good. So the first item on the agenda, or the first presentation, is the consideration of the revised Board of Standards and Appeals. I mentioned BSA before. That's Board of Standards and Appeals application for an elementary charter school at 2420 Amsterdam Avenue, which is the radio tower and hotel building. The committee will remember that we considered and approved an application, which I believe the board then approved, for a charter high school in this same location, and that was a year or so ago. That deal unraveled, the details of which I'm not clear on. And the office was contacted, I think in December, about this revision, which would have an elementary school in there. And obviously an elementary school and a high school are very different in terms of the population. So my understanding, there are going to be presentations or have been presentations with youth and education, as well as traffic and transportation. They already met with, and as a matter of fact, I think Debbie charged you with giving us an update on that.
Right, so if anything is left out or you have.
Right. And-
I think we will be very.
Va bene, va bene. And I mean, just for the background, from our perspective, it's a different charter organization altogether. The prior application had elementary school and middle school operations already in place within basically walking distance of this site. And something of mid-90% of the students who attended the school walked to school. And we all know that high school students do not want their parents dropping them off at school. So there was very little concern about, student drop-off. There are some students who were mobility impaired, and that drop-off was going to be on the avenue west of Amsterdam, not on Amsterdam. So with an elementary school population, there was greater concern with, where drop-offs would occur and things of that nature. So a lot of that has not necessarily within the land use jurisdiction, which is why when it came to Catherine's attention, I said land use would be much more comfortable if youth and education and traffic and transportation also, had this, because last time, we got input sort of after the fact at the general meeting, which isn't always helpful. With that, who is leading off?
I'm going to lead off.
And you are?
Richard Lobel.
Richard Lobel of Sheldon Lobel, who has never, ever presented before this community board before. Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, Richard Lobel, Sheldon Lobel, presenting for 2020. I'm joined by Nick
One sec.
Gallagher.
Do you need some?
Yeah, I was gonna pause for a second because I don't know if he's viewed by the public.
Oh.
Do you see what I'm saying? If you look at the two
Public views, he's not there.
Why is that?
Not there. I can't see him. No.
So I'm wondering if you can sit at the table and
Right.
speak, and then that way
That
this
will-
camera will.
Yeah,
capture-
The only issue I've got it on.
Oh.
the camera should, when you speak, it should follow you.
Quiet, you talk real loud.
Can we just put the camera over there? Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2. Hey,
There you are. Okay, everyone be quiet.
Okay. Good evening, once again, Richard Lobel from Sheldon Lobel, presenting for 2420 Amsterdam. I'm joined by Nick Gallagher, who's here from American Dream Charter School 2. Nick will be talking a little bit about the school and their program. I'm going to be presenting the land use matter that's before the BSA and the community board. Kevin and Brian, can you unmute for a moment and just introduce yourselves?
Yeah, absolutely. This is Brian Wu. I'm the developer from Youngwood Associates. We are the person who built the project over at the Radio Tower Hotel.
And who else did you ask to unmute?
As long as Brian's available to answer questions, it should be fine. Okay. Great. I'm going to open up the presentation on the screen. I'm able to do that.
You should be able to. You need to find your, before you go, he needs to find his presentation.
Just minimize.
Oh, it's minimized, I know.
It's the edge, sir, the edge,
Oh, it is?
yeah.
No, Edge.
That's
To-
wrong.
to the-
The blue and
There you go.
green.
Okay, great, thank you.
Bravissimo.
Okay, excellent. So we're here today to discuss 2420 Amsterdam.
Is it screen share?
Oh, is it,
If it's not, I can screen share it. Well, the Zoom. but-
Yeah. Thank you, Anthony.
Then you can throw the screen of the presentation. Right. Okay, great. Okay, great. So what are we seeking here? We're seeking, two things. The first is an amendment of a previously granted variance. This was the variance that was granted, by BSA and was approved by the community board in 2017. And this was to allow the building, which is now, built and has a temporary CO site. The second, is a special permit application. The special permit is what we came and discussed before the community board previously in 2022 to 2023. Resolutions were issued by the community board in 2023. As the chair noted, those were approving the school at the time, which was different than the school that's proposed right now. And since that time, that school is no longer part of the equation. And so the proposal right now would be to substitute in the American Dream Charter School. We'll talk a little bit about the changes that would be required. But basically, the underlying special permit relief that is sought is the same, which would be to allow for a new use group 3 school within the CA3 districts.
And just to remind folks who may not have been here for the last thing, in a CA3 zoning district, a school is not permitted. And the site actually has two zoning. A little piece of it is R72, in which a school would be permitted, but most of it is CA3, which doesn't allow a school. That's why they need a special permit for that, because the vast majority of the site is the C8 zone.
And we'll go over a little bit later what the findings are. We come to the community board for variance applications, which is a waiver of zoning. And to do something contrary to zoning, that's not what this is. A special permit. Basically, if you satisfy these very narrowly drawn conditions, you are supposed to receive the special permit. So it's considered to be less of a lift. And we'll go over those findings in the course of the presentation. We'll run through right now. Okay, cool. So you can see the building before you. Again, the building itself was built pursuant to waivers granted by BSA, which are not really a question here, but at the time of grant, the BSA allowed for a mixed-use building, which included retail, and office space and a hotel. And so the amendment to the variance would be to allow for the conversion of square footage that was formerly devoted to office space to now be used for the school. And so the BSA has already essentially weighed in, and they understand that the nature of that change is reasonable and minimal. In fact, the waivers that are sought now pursuant to that amendment would actually allow for less square footage than was looked at by the community board previously in 2022 to 2023. So instead of the 45 or so thousand square feet that was sought to change in the past, this school actually operates with less square footage. There's no longer use of the 8th floor, so it's actually kind of a lesser special permit, given the fact that now it's only about 36 to 37,000. I'd actually invite Nick to just talk about the American Dream School for a little bit, and then I'll come back to the presentation.
Hey everyone, my name is Nicholas Remit. I'm the school's chief of staff, and I've been with the school since it opened.
I think you need to come closer and speak louder so the camera will follow you.
That's okay?
Yes,
Can
it's,
you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so again, my name is Nick Gallagher. I'm from the American Dream School. I'm not on the phone. I've been with the school for 10 years. I serve as the school's chief of staff. We've been open for 10 years. our founder, Melissa Melkonian, opened the school in the spirit of really supporting the Spanish-speaking immigrant population of the South Bronx. And so that's what we hope to do here in Washington Heights. We've been given the great opportunity to open an elementary school. And so what we've done in the South Bronx is to really try to cherish and celebrate the culture and heritage of the community that we serve. Our goal is to graduate students who are bilingual and biliterate. And so those are some of the qualities that we'd like to bring to serve the very vibrant community in Washington.
And maybe you could tell us a bit more about not just the existing operations, but the population to be served. As I pointed out, when the committee was discussing the high school, there was lots of, discussion about, where students were coming from and, travel and transportation issues. And it became very clear that, the high school was located more or less in the neighborhood where a vast majority of the students live. I mean, they walk, to school. It's not an area that they are unfamiliar with. Looking at some of the information available online for the American Dream Charter School, it's a ground space operation. I think your nearest facility is several miles away from this site. So who's the population that's being served, and,
Sure.
give us a sense of that.
So in the Bronx, we have a middle and high school, and we have about 600 students in grades 6 to 12. The elementary school, we're not, the intention is to attract students in this community. We're not, this school is not designed to attract students from the South Bronx. Like, we want to serve Washington Heights and CSD 6. It's also like an elementary school, so we're starting grades K to 1 in our first year, and then we'll add a grade every other in subsequent years up to 5th grade. And then the presumption is that those students would stay in Washington Heights for middle or high school, not that they would necessarily go to our middle or high school in the Bronx. Does that make sense? So in the Bronx, the students probably about 90% of the students that attend our school are from within a half a mile. And so obviously, like middle school, the question is like, can a child walk to school alone and have permission to leave alone? Elementary school is a much different circumstance. And so the surveys, and I don't know if Robert's going to talk about this a little bit, but sorry, Richard. The surveys that we've done, and also based on the community that we serve now, we have about 12% of our families that drop off students with a vehicle. And so we expect about the same percentage in Washington Heights. But we are hoping to attract students and families that live in close proximity to the school. And that would be primarily using public transportation, which is walking.
And you've done, in terms of the school that you're planning, you've already done outreach to the community, basically your marketing plan to determine that the students you're seeking, that there's in fact a market, for lack of a better term, for them, and the catchment area of people walking and dropping off, that all of that is something that is going to work.
So all of that is underway now. We're like right in the middle of a lot of that work, like reaching out to organizations, doing a lot of work on the ground. We have one of my colleagues, his name is Eddie Jimenez. He is from Washington Heights and lives here. And so he is doing a lot of that outreach now. We're also at some stage of advertising for the school. So one of the things that we typically do is we work with a company called Outfront Media that does like bus and subway advertisements. So we're in the process of like getting a campaign with them going. So the short answer is, and we're trying to do that from many different avenues.
Are you the school on like 153rd and Walton? There's in the Bronx, is that you?
No, so our middle school is on 141st in between Brook and St. Anne, across from People's Park, and our high school is on 403, is on Concord and like 142nd, on the other side of Brookman. So it's not, that's,
Are you gonna be a bilingual?
so I'm sorry, that is one of our key design elements. We're a dual language school. Spanish is a core subject of our school, and that will definitely be replicated at the elementary school level. And that's why we think that we're like pretty relevant for the Washington Heights community. Not to be presumptuous, but we think that we have a place here, and that although we are a charter school, we're a niche charter school, and we think we would fit in very well and would be complementary for this community. So yes, very much so.
Sorry to make you repeat yourself, but you said that you, for the first year, are gonna serve K through which grade and then add a grade each year?
Kindergarten and first.
And
And in each grade, you're hoping to recruit 75 students per grade.
Can I ask what the retention rate at the middle school, high school is, like from moving from one grade to the next? So if a student enters middle school, what is the retention that they'll actually graduate from the high school?
It's a great question. From 6 to 12, I don't want to tell you something accurate. I think our retention rate from grade to grade annually is about 90%. And that is, in terms of like evidence-based education, our goal is to have these students for 7 years. We're one of the only charter high schools in New York State that offers the seal of biliteracy, which is a really rigorous process of exhibiting that our students are proficient in Spanish and English, both like in reading and writing and verbally. So that's what we hope for these elementary school students.
Everyone loves a free lycée français, but a Spanish version. No, truly. So what safeguards, if any, are done to make sure that those that have more social capital don't take up the spots from those that might have less? AKA is what safeguards are there that lower and middle income families or that are going to have slots in your school? They're not just picked up by families that are more in the know.
Sure. So like a lot of as far as I know, all charter schools, our admission is based on a lottery. And there are certain preferences every charter school is allowed to, with approval from their authorizer, tailor their preferences. And so our preferences are for English language learners that would hopefully most benefit from our dual language Spanish-English model, and also students from the district. So we do not have a preference for students that might qualify as economically disadvantaged. But based on what I know about the district, I believe when I looked on the New York State website, 86% of students in economically disadvantaged and could. So my assumption is that our class would reflect those numbers. Does that make sense?
It does. I'm going to give a little pushback. Just a wee bit. There's a school already in the district that is dual language, that is from K to 5. And part of the concern is that a majority of the seats are being taken up from families that are more in the know. So I just want to throw that out as a potential consideration going forward.
Sure.
Is that again, that families that are more plugged in and I guess, yeah. So just to be mindful of that. And secondarily, is you stated focus on English learning. So is a rephrasing of that is more of your population that you're looking for, is that Spanish is their first language? And
Are you looking for land use or public safety? That's around the corner. Welcome.
So I think, what- to address like the first point, that's our job. Like, it's our job to make sure that we're reaching a variety of, you know, segments of the community. And so, I think we're really trying to do that. One of the things that I've actively been doing, even though it's not really my role, I am trying to figure out ways that our school can reach the more recent arrivals or newcomers that might especially benefit from our academic model. So we're reaching out to groups like Lightning Ground and the Door and other community-based organizations to do our best to reach a variety of the whole scope of the community. And in terms of language, we have like everybody. Like, our school is for people that don't speak any Spanish, people that Spanish is their first language, immigrants, students that are immigrants themselves, children of immigrants, recent arrivals from the Bronx. It's really our job is to make sure that however you arrive at our school, we send you out into the world as a happy, healthy person that is hopefully bilingual and bilingual.
Okay, thank you, Nick. I'm gonna keep going. Wow, this zoning stuff seems dry after that conversation. So there's the map. As Mr. Benjamin noted, the property is split between C8 and R districts. So you can see the site on 181st in Amsterdam, and you can see the zoning map here, which the gray line represents the R72 district. You can see the lower left portion of the site, roughly 20% of the site, the remainder of the property being within the CA3. So again, the special permit is specifically designed so that C8 and M1 properties that are located within 400 feet of a residential district and satisfy certain conditions are able to apply for this relief and to house schools. The BSA history here, we've noted it before, we'll just kind of touch on it right now. In 2017, the underlying variance was granted primarily to allow for that commercial use within the residential district. So it split the uses between retail and office, producing a roughly 213,000 square foot building, of which 86,000 was hotel, 127,000 was office. And then there was a modification of the variance later in 2017, which permitted a further splitting of the commercial use to allow for the hotel, 115,000 for office and 11,000 for retail. The plans that are this plan and the ones that go forward, Brian, I'll just ask you right now if you'd like me to page through the plans in case you wanted to comment on modifications between what we're seeking now versus what we asked the community board last year.
Are you able to unmute? Let me see.
I'm sorry, I was talking for a while over there and just realized that I was on mute. So these prior approved plans were granted by the BSA. It's really, this is just demonstrated massing showing what we were approved for, which is really just a use variance. Originally the C83 and the R72 disallowed for a hospitality component and a use group 6 component of office. So the BSA granted us the opportunity to be able to build those two. Just flip to the next slide. And so the current proposal right now to the BSA is to allow for the K-5 school to allow for about roughly 37,000 square feet of the approved office use to be converted into use group 3. Which would be the K-5 school for floors 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6, And as Nick's mentioned before, this would be for approximately 450 kids and approximately 50 staff members with the hours of operation between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. As you can see over here, the idea here is on the first floor, we would grant a separate entrance for the school apart from the rest of the office building. Roughly 2,500 square feet would be dedicated, 1,900 square feet would be dedicated for school use on the first floor. The entire second floor of commercial use would be converted to use group 3. And the same would be true for floors 4, 5, and 6. So this is again just a massing diagram showing the proposal for the school. As you can see over here on the right side, you see the entrance on the first floor for the school that is separate from the office entrance that sits more to the west in the blue box on the ground floor. That's the actual commercial office lobby, and the school lobby would sit 2 retail bays down right on that sort of green block right there on the first floor, and then the school would then occupy the subsequent 4 floors on top. The idea here is, well, actually, you know what? We can go to the next slide and I can show in more detail. This is just sort of a site plan. The school's entrance is the 3rd triangle in the middle along 181st Street. Next slide. And here you can see in further detail exactly the plans that we are suggesting. They are very similar to the prior approved plans from the community board for the high school that we had, in the sense that the entrance is a separate entrance for the school. Students would be coming in off of 181. They'd enter into a lobby area, which would have a dedicated elevator and dedicated stairs that will allow for students to traverse up to the 2nd floor. Don't mind pushing over the 2nd floor.
Wait, were you saying they're entering into the green?
Green.
Into the green area, correct? Yep.
No, just for.
Right.
I think everything in the diagram that's light green is the school use.
Yes, yes. So just by way of clarification, the blue over here is the office lobby. All of the purple is existing retail. So let me say that differently. The dark purple is existing retail. The lighter purple is hotel. And then the proposed changes to the current BSA variance would be the green area right now, which was originally dedicated for retail use, but would be converted into the school.
And the restaurant, I think there's that Jala, that's on the corner of 180th? Okay.
Yes, halal, correct.
Jala. Well, yo no sé nada.
This is the diagram for the 2nd floor. So again, the idea here is that the students have a dedicated stair and elevator that allows them to access the 2nd floor for classroom space. Once they are on the 2nd floor, they have full access to the existing 4 elevators that are existing within the actual commercial office space. They would have a dedicated elevator for themselves that would be locked off. For security purposes, no one would be able to access that elevator aside from school staff. And so, only the school would be able to use that elevator for their particularly dedicated floors.
And the other 3 elevators will not stop on the school floors?
They will be totally locked off. They would not have access to these floors.
Silly mom question. The rest of the purple on the same floor couldn't get access to the green?
No, the only way to get access to the green would be through the emergency stairs. But even then, the purple would only have access to the emergency staircase. But from there, they wouldn't be able to actually access the school. That would be a fire door, and they'd be prohibited from entering into there.
Thank you.
This is the 4th floor. I know the flooring gets a little bit odd just because that the hotel ceiling heights and the office ceiling heights are slightly different, and so we have to skip floors in the office building. But these are all contiguous, so don't let the numbering throw you off at all. The 4th floor is it's really the 3rd floor, but it's just really right above the 2nd floor. Same idea here. The school would be using all of the light green shaded area. The 5th floor, exactly the same. the school would be able to use all the light green shaded area. One more up. Same here as well. And again, this would be totally separated from the purple use, where the separation is through a fire staircase. There's no ability for either uses to be able to enter into the other use.
Okay. Thanks, Brian.
Is there outdoor space associated at all with the school? Or is it the park or?
Yep. Brian, outdoor space?
In terms of outdoor space, there is a park directly across the street on Amsterdam Avenue. That's a public park. There's an existing playground over there. We're going to get to the traffic study a little bit later on. I know we actually had a presentation to the traffic committee earlier on this week where we talked a lot about traffic patterns. But one of the ideas here is that on that intersection on 181st Street in Amsterdam, where we have a lot of crossing guards. And so the idea here is that the kids want to have access to outdoor space. They'd be able to use the playground across the street.
Has there been a discussion with the Parks Department about that?
I'm sorry, I could not hear.
Has there been a discussion with the Parks Department about that?
No, there's not been a discussion with the Parks Department about that. Happy to do so.
And so I think you're about to have that.
No, this is not the.
Well, no, not now, but the suggestion coming from, you know.
What you heard, what works for the Parks Department?
Yeah.
Well, certainly have a discussion.
Yeah, and just for background, I think with the prior proposal, once again, there was no on-site outdoor recreation space. I think there was a multi-purpose space inside that could be used for a gym, but there was no outdoor space. And the concept was that, you know, the public park across the street would be used. But once again, that was high school students as opposed to elementary school students. And the discussion of having lots of crossing guards, I know one of the comments we got from the chair of traffic and transportation is there are a number of schools in the area that have requested the crossing guards, and there's a shortage of them. So it's not clear how that, you know, safety mechanism is actually going to be implemented.
Inform them of that and what the conceivable they could even have, you know, with proper permission, they could presumably have a staff person.
Well, yeah, I'm just
Right.
pointing out that that's another one of the things that is difference between high school students and elementary school students. I see a raised hand from Jamila, from the councilwoman's office. Are you able to unmute, Jamila?
Yes. Quick
Okay.
question. I kind of just want to piggyback off of the crossing guard discussion. I just wanted to know if that was going to be outsourced like the DOE or the
Could you speak a bit louder, please?
Yes, sorry.
Can you hear me now?
Absolutely, yes.
Sorry. I just wanted to piggyback off of the crossing guard conversation. My question was it going to be provided by a DOE, or is the charter school going to hire in-house? Because I was going to say the same thing, that we've been hearing a lot from District 6 schools regarding crossing guards, and what we kept getting told by DOE and also the NYPD is the shortage and the lack of budget cuts and all that stuff that we don't have to get into right now. However, that was a question for me. Is it going to be someone who's going to be employed by the charter school, or are they depending on DOE for that?
I mean, I think that, to be totally frank, like that's a little bit TBD to be determined. One of the things that I can say is that at our existing schools in the Bronx, when we have needs like that cannot be, you know, filled by the DOE, we have parents that we've hired to work in our lunch rooms to help you know, maintain order and supervise children. So possibility. I've actually never been involved in the hiring of the crossing guard, so I don't know what all of the steps are or requirements are for that, but that's a possibility. Because we heard on Monday that this is something that schools have requested from you know, local agencies and people, it's just, they're hard positions to fill. So if that's the case, you know, we would try to come up with something creative where maybe we could help the parent Emily Lexman come and maybe they could help us with school.
Yeah, and to back off that comment from Nick, you know, this was brought up during the traffic committee meeting that we had on Monday. This was all news to us. We didn't realize that this was such a difficult position to hire. I mean, we are committed to having the crossing guards. So whether or not they're available immediately or like Nick is saying, their contingency plans, we will figure it out. But the crossing guards are a necessity given the fact that these students are between K to 5.
Yeah, it's not that it's a difficult position to hire. It's difficult positions to fund because of, you know, budget cuts and the lack of available funding.
Well, I think it's also a difficult position to fill.
I think there are any number of people who would be interested.
Well, in fact, that came up, hands up, by the way.
Can't see it.
People, eventually I'll be on the camera. The position is in fact extremely hard to fill. It's very poorly paid, and it's just gets worse and worse. So people who want a job in general try to do something else.
Yeah,
that's a big part of it.
yeah.
It's not the funding; it's just that people don't want the job.
Well, I mean, if you had adequate funding to pay someone a decent wage, they might be more interested.
We are on slide 23 of 52. So.
Hopefully, we're not going through 50 slides.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're wrapping up soon.
Right.
It goes to 29. Cool.
And yeah.
Excellent. Special permit findings again. We talked about the fact that this is not a variance, it's a special permit, and there's a presumption if you satisfy the findings, you should receive the special permit. Findings are A through D. 4 findings. The first is that within the area to be served by the school, there's no practical possibility of obtaining a site as of right. And so there was a search that was conducted by the school. We submitted a letter to the BSA. It should be located within the materials to the community board, but essentially looked at no fewer than 12 sites pursuant to the parameters needed by the school, 37,000 square feet of space, and per pupil facilities at roughly $50 per square foot. And so there was nothing feasible within the area. This is something which is common to the special permit because, as you can imagine, for schools, the real estate is hard. If you're in an R6 district nearby or an R7 district, which can be used for residential use, the idea of using that for a school, which is a community facility use, can be challenging, which is one of the reasons that special permit was created. So the bottom line is that the school conducted their search pursuant to the A finding, excuse me, and was unable to find a school located within the area to be served by the school. It's just a demonstration of the site and the surrounding area. The first finding, or the second finding, was with regards to the 400 foot rule, which is, I'll just show you the map, that you'd be located within 400 feet where a school is can be located as of right. Why is that? They don't want you to locate in a C or an M1 district or in a parcel within those districts that's too far from residential. They want to know that you're in a neighborhood or community where there's residential. And so here, you don't just satisfy the finding, you got residential on your site. It's literally a partially R72 site, so that's satisfied here. The third finding is with regards to noise attenuation, that the environmental aspects of the surrounding area won't adversely affect the kids and their ability to learn. And so that usually is something which dilutes down to a noise study. Once the environmental findings are found in terms of air quality and such, which they were here, then the DSA's main focus is that there be sufficient attenuation at the school, that the noise and other negative effects from the surrounding M or C8 uses won't negatively affect the kids. Here, there was noise studies that were conducted and contained further in the environmental review, which demonstrates that pursuant to all the work that was done in 2017, the nature of the quality of construction is such that the kids won't be disturbed by outside noise and traffic. The final finding, which is probably the most, the meatiest finding, is with regards to delivery of kids to and from the school in a safe manner. I understand that the Transportation Committee had their hearing on the 5th, and so there was a discussion around that. But essentially, with regards to this school and traffic, There's a detailed study which demonstrates what percentage of kids are likely to take public transportation, subway, bus, what would the drop-offs be like, which kids will walk and such. And so the nature of the traffic study or security measures was such that they satisfy the traffic finding with the understanding that DOT is required to submit a report with regards to it. So this is one of the few special permits that I know of at BSA where a sister agency is called in and needs to definitively rule that the school can be safely used by the population here. So BSA has not yet received that report from DOT because there's been a change in applicant. So the understanding is that we are waiting for sign off from DOT in advance of the next BSA hearing on this, which would be February 26th to 27th. So the community board will get the benefit of that, seeing the results of that study as well. And it's not merely DOT, it's also DOT student safety. So it's a specific division devoted to this.
So even if you're gonna have local kids, there will be school buses for people with physical disabilities or even developmental disabilities. How would they deal with the bus traffic on 181st? They would still need to access the school that way, right?
Where's the drop off?
The drop off is on the end.
I think you were showing us on another slide and you went backwards.
Oh, yeah, go back.
Stop.
That's the perfect slide, but that was, if I could,
Yes.
because I was there, there's the transport, the triangle with the circle, that's where the entrance is going to be. Now, 181st Street is now a busway.
Right.
It can be nothing, and none of it will be on 181st. It will all be on Amsterdam, next to where that blue bordered triangle is. And that lane actually is an extra lane that the rest of Amsterdam Avenue doesn't have. And that lane will be a lane where buses can pull up, where parents can pull up, and all and every student coming, except on the sidewalk, coming with a vehicle will all have to use this Amsterdam Avenue thing. The other thing is they anticipate creating during the morning arrival, the rushes, several distinct time periods. So you wouldn't get all the people at the same time to spread it out. So that's how they plan to do it. And the other thing is they're going to have personnel. Remember, these are little kids. So there will always be personnel on the sidewalk escorting the kids in groups into the building. Now, at dismissal, apparently there were 2 dismissal times with some kids stay for an after-school program, but they're not as concerned about congestion at that point. But I believe the entire Traffic and Transportation Committee is very pleased with what we heard. The thing that was so good about this is they had done a great deal of foresight. They had done their planning. They already know what they're going to do. Because as you know, we have other charter schools in the neighborhood, one in Inwood and one northern for Washington Avenue that have caused terrible traffic problems for the Success Charter School for Washington. That's gotten better, but it's a whole mess now that basically destroys the operation of 218th Street Broadway. There are 2 or 3 charter schools right near each other. Traffic is toxic. So our committee's going to talk about that next month. But we were very satisfied with
So just to be clear, what you're referring to as the extra lane that only exists along that block front, will there be, yeah, I see it. Will there be signage, sort of no parking during?
There already is. Nobody can park there now.
Okay, so
Right now, I think it's no standing, and they're going to turn. It's no stopping. They may turn it into no standing.
right. So will there be other signs that indicate that during X hours it's for school use of?
I would imagine those details will be discussed with DOT. But again, if it's standard no standing signage, that would permit buses to drop students off, and that would also permit automobiles to drop students off. But that signage, I think, was.
And one other small detail is the anticipation is that 1 bus in the morning between 7 and 8, 1 bus at dismissal. So it won't be multiple buses, but our anticipation is that it will be one.
Right, and like we said earlier, and so they expect most of the students will be coming on foot.
Right, but just coming from the disability world, there are usually numerous small buses because one can't facilitate something.
So, yeah, I was thinking about like the larger school bus, but,
And they have to wait longer sometimes to load kids in who are in wheelchairs or whatever. I mean, it takes longer than you think.
But the block front is 200 linear feet, so it could accommodate.
that, and that.
A number of
space, I believe,
vehicles.
is about 8 feet.
Right. I mean,
Conceivably, maybe grab the rest of it.
right.
That's all.
Steve?
But an important
Sorry.
thing nevertheless to keep in mind. We don't know how many students that will be serving that may have those.
Yeah, but that's the reason why I asked if the signage there already says it's no standing, no parking, then you've got a block front, which is 200 linear feet that can accommodate that. Steve?
Yeah, I have three questions and possible that maybe two of them will have been covered. What is the capacity of this proposed school?
450 students when we're at max capacity. We're in year one, we'll start with kindergarten and a first grade. Each will have 75 students. And then subsequently for 4 years, we'll add a grade, also with 75 students. So we're K to 5 with 450 students.
All right, so over a period of 3 years or so, you grow into 450 kids.
Correct.
All right. So we've had a number of charter schools that have opened up in this community in recent years. But do we know for a fact that we have a shortage of seats, that there is a demand for this school?
Well, our school is a dual language Spanish English school, and we do think that we're poised well to
I'm sorry, you're breaking up.
Speak a little bit louder.
Yeah. Thank you.
Because of our academic model, we believe that we'll be very relevant for the Washington Heights community as a dual language Spanish English school, where Spanish is a core subject in all grades. As I mentioned earlier, like our goal is to graduate students who are bilingual and biliterate, and so I guess based on the demographic profile of Washington Heights and Inwood, we think that we're very well suited for this community. I don't know if that answers your question.
No, I don't think it does. I think we do have other dual language programs. What the actual demand is for seats. My last question is, in the number of alternative sites that you looked at, did you look at the former St. Rose of Lima Wall Street, which is now empty, and if you look at the triangle site, an empty lot at between St. Nicholas and Amsterdam, between 162nd and 163rd Street?
So, I can give you the list, which has about 12 schools. First, I just want to just make sure that we have a good idea of what the text is asking for. That within the neighborhood to be served by the proposed school, there is no practical possibility of obtaining a site of adequate size located in a district wherein it is permitted as of right, because appropriate sites from such districts are occupied by substantial improvements. So the idea basically is that if the site is already built out, and it's doesn't really suit the program of the school, that that it's just not practical. Not necessarily impossible, but it's not practical.
School.
Totally understood.
Previously served a comparable population.
Right.
And is now empty.
So
Wins
here's
was
the
there.
sites
Yeah, I
were,
thought Wim was
Isn't
there.
Wynn's there?
But temporarily.
But they'll be,
right, so I mean, it has to do with the school's opening program and how quickly they want to get in. I'm gonna read the sites just so you're familiar. Edgecombe Center, 639 Edgecombe. Yeah, of course, it's a letter, it should already have been received, but I'll
Yeah,
provide it. Yeah, don't read the whole.
Yeah. I was going to point out that it is a large package of information that was sent to the office. It would help if when you send this to us, if maybe just the list of sites could be sent so that we don't kill trees and stuff like that.
Well, are these two sites on that?
Can you give me, you have the addresses?
One of them is on 164th Street, off of St. Nicholas. Would be 500 something West 164.
I don't have that.
And the other one, to get the exact address, it's on Amsterdam Avenue and 162nd. It's an empty lot.
I don't have that here. 517 was 164.
Yeah, I would say, I apologize for interrupting here. I would say the one thing in terms of considering an empty lot is the timetable around delivery. If you're considering an empty lot, the construction time, the permanent time that you're talking about is 3 years at a minimum. So in terms of consideration, although the empty lot might work for the school, I think the timetable has to be taken into consideration as well, because there's a material difference between a built building being able to do an interior fit out relative to constructing a building from ground up.
All right, so that's an argument. And that's our presentation. I can answer any further questions.
So when this was presented back in April with the other school, there was some question around safety. And we talked a little bit about some of the safety features that will be in this site with the elementary students. My question is, were there additional considerations made that differ from the proposal back in April to the proposal today with respect to safety?
Yeah, do you mind if I talk about that? So, in considering the fact that this is going to be a K-5 school, the additional safety considerations were considered. And so the difference in proposal between this and the school from last year is that we will be creating an internal staircase. Originally, with the school in the square proposal that we had for the 8th through 12th grade, the idea was to try and use basically a fire staircase, which would be a shared staircase, and would have accessibility issues between sort of the other uses in the building. But because we're dealing with small kids, frankly, we can't take that risk. And so at our expense, we're going to be building out an internal staircase for the school.
Anything else in terms of like guards throughout the building or anything to that effect?
We'll have a security guard agent posted at the front desk of the school that will manage the entry point into the campus, and then also do like regularly scheduled rounds to ensure like the safety and security of our floors and our space. And while that security agent is doing that, this will also scale up. So based on budget and what we can afford, like during the first year or two, while the security agent is doing those rounds, we might have like somebody in the office staff that will man the front desk. After 2 or 3 years, we will likely hire a second security agent. But that's our plan.
My last question is, are you scheduled to speak to youth and education this month?
We are. The youth and education discussion, I believe, to next October 12th.
The very presentation, like finding students and all this stuff. I was just like thinking, I hope you guys doing like in-house for the street. Here in the park. I wonder if it's like even like feasible to like make a. That's kind of like stupid. For like for kids. That's like yeah.
I can see DOT not approving that real quick. OC, you had your hand up, but then it went down.
Yeah, it's fine. I got my answer. Thanks.
Okay, and Graham, you had a question?
Yes, thank you. I am just curious to know if there are any financial benefits for the building owner, as far as maybe tax abatements or any kind of community benefits program, if there's anything like that that's involved.
The short answer is no. There's no difference between this or an office space.
Okay, thank you.
So Wayne, is the idea to propose something tonight for us to vote on, or?
Well, I mean, yes, I mean, the BSA application is a land use, action, so we would need to, propose something. We have input from, TNT, and whatever we propose, I think there would be a caveat or a carve out for whatever input we get from youth and education. Although I have emailed both chairs to ask them, because they've had the same package that we have since, I think the end of December, early January. So, and we've talked about it a bit. So, anything that we would pass, I think, would be subject to input from Y&E, since we already have input from TNT. A lot of acronyms.
Cool.
Jim?
I'd just like to remind us that this committee is only concerned with the land use issue. So if they have trapezes in the building or not, on some level, unless it's going, none of our business.
Yeah. Although, I mean, to be fair, and we've been good about this in the past. If there are issues that cross over committees, rather than ending up, as sometimes happens, with 2 or 3 conflicting resolutions, we try to get the material into a resolution. And so and that's one of the reasons why when it came to land use for a presentation, I believe in January, I said, wait a minute. It's too much of a change in terms of the use of schools to school, yes, but high school and elementary school, that's why we said, make sure youth and education gives us their input or none, and that TNT gives us the input or none, because, we don't want to just say, we looked at the land use issues and anything else that we know is there, we're going to kick down the road and let someone else deal with it. Jim, Steve.
As the parliamentarian, although we had one instance that I know of 2 resolutions on the same subject, the idea is to have one resolution per thing. We, at some point in time, uniquely governed chairperson. And in fact, I think ultimately that became one resolution also. That is the way to put it.
And that's what we're working to do. Steve?
Yeah, Mr. Wu, the original intention of the project was that this space would be rented to offices, for office space, including possibly, I think, to community groups. Can you talk somewhat? Apparently, you haven't been able to do that. Can you explain? Is there no longer an office market? I mean, what has been the problem that you can't rent the space for offices?
Sure, happy to address that. I mean, the short answer is COVID. It has been very destructive to the overall New York City office market, as I'm sure everybody's aware. Everybody's reading the headlines. The demand for office space in New York City has materially decreased. That being said, we are trying to figure out ways to turn space more competent to community use. We have a couple ideas in terms of how we can do that. Making it more palatable by potentially pre-building space or doing things like allowing tenants to come in in smaller chunks. But frankly, the short answer is, frankly, it's an effect of the overall market in New York City.
But there still is office space that can be rented in the building.
Yeah, that was my question. How is there substantial space remaining after you rent to the school?
Yes, there is.
And how much would that be?
There is still roughly 100,000 square feet left in the building.
It's more or less the same as before.
Is that space connected to the school?
No, that's the light blue space in the stacking diagram. So remember, there was another lobby.
Yeah.
That's the lobby to the office building.
Okay.
So, you know, you can go up there. Jamila,
Yes, just two things, more for you, Wayne. Can the package be shared with me?
when
That
I
they
get
sent?
it, sure, absolutely.
We
Well,
have
do you
a
mean the package or the presentation?
No, the package that they sent to you and Transportation and Youth Committee.
Well, I can have the office staff scan it and send it to you. You know, it's a big package.
Okay, I can also ask Paola. We're
Okay.
meeting with them next week, the ED, so I want to make sure that the council members prepared with questions.
Okay, yeah.
And this PowerPoint too. we can give-
Well, I mean, I don't have the PowerPoint, but I
well,
just asked for it. So the
Yeah.
PowerPoint and the list, which is in the package, I can certainly have that email, but the package is, if you've ever seen one of these BSA application packages,
Right.
it's a lot of dead trees.
Well, whatever we have, we should give to the council members.
Thank you.
So, I mean, at this juncture, so is there a motion regarding this application, Jim?
We approve this application.
Second.
And as I did the other night, did it in the fall, and for everyone, I complimented everyone involved, following the presentation. I organized to make our job much easier.
I just want to say that I'm not comfortable voting on this until I know whether or not there's an actual demand for the school space. And so I'd like to hear from the school district. Maybe that's through the Youth and Education Committee. You know, we've every time we turn around, there's another charter school, and I'd like to know what is how does it affect our public school system here?
That's fine. I would also point out that at the end of the day, it is not our financial burden, it is theirs. I mean, so if they were to open a school for which there's no demand, that's on them. But as you know, there's a motion that's moved and seconded, and folks can
Well,
vote.
I just want to reiterate the parliamentary point, that although I share Steve's about unnecessary school space, I don't believe that will be the case, and the reality is not part of.
Right, I was saying in terms of the land use action, we can vote for it, against it, or abstain. And as I also mentioned, that whatever our resolution should have a carve out caveat or whatever that is getting the input from Youth and Education, because we already received input from TNT. And actually, when Debbie first emailed me, it was like, there's nothing for us to look at. We don't have any concerns, but they dug in a little more and, you know, discussed the matter.
I'm sorry, could Jean please state the motion again? It's breaking up here.
There was a motion to approve the application that was, it was moved by Jim, seconded by Daniel. And I was just pointing out that what was discussed prior to the formal motion, I stated that the land use reso should have language that, you know, allows for input from the Youth and Education Committee, which is meeting next week.
Well, in the absence of that input, I'm saying
I understood what you said, Steve.
Well, you are free to abstain.
and I
So-
intend to exercise that right.
Va bene, va bene. So we have a motion that's moved and second. And for, who is here? For members of the public, just for,
Allow me to- there is some validity to your point. Let's say hypothetically, when the Youth and Education Committee hears this, their heads explode.
Mhm.
Well, then we might want to revise our resolution for.
Yeah,
And how are we gonna be able to do that when we've already approved?
well, if we,
Should we so do that?
if we are already saying that we are drafting a memo that is subject to input from Youth and Education, that input would influence how it is finalized. But I also will reiterate what I've just said, because folks get materials and don't always, you know, acknowledge they received it. The information that we are looking at was received by land use, traffic and transportation, and Youth and Education more than a month ago. And on at least 2 occasions, I have emailed the chairs of those committees to ask if they have any input for land use.
That's a technicality, this discussion. Only reason why I ask is I have a couple of comments.
Well,
By all means,
No, I was gonna say is that just going to Steve's point is that for anecdotally, there aren't that many dual lingo, dual language elementary schools in our district. And this is just anecdotally as a parent that just recently had a child go to a dual language school in District 6. It was Castle Bridge, and it was the only one of the only ones that we were able to find here. Now, that doesn't mean anything, and maybe I didn't research well enough, but just in terms of, is there a particular need? Does this school meet a particular need that maybe DOE doesn't necessarily have? I think that it might, for what that's worth.
Yeah, and it's interesting that at last month's general meeting, there was this discussion coming out of Youth and Education, I believe, about the need to reduce classroom size and to have DOE and the School Construction Authority, build more schools, establish more seats to do that. So that was their resolution. So it's kind of hard to understand from a few weeks ago to now that there isn't an interest and there isn't a demand for ensuring that there are more seats to reduce classroom size. But if they were to tell us that, it's really no different than when, the licensing committee passes something and says that, we support it subject to certain conditions. And if the documentation to support those conditions are not delivered by the time there's a general meeting, they can and often do reverse their approval.
So is that what you're proposing we do here with youth and education if they don't materially object to the?
Well, yeah, that's the whole idea of, asking Youth and Education and Traffic and Transportation, but they met before us, to give us their input.
Well, could we add that condition to his resolution?
That's what I just said twice.
No.
Well, let me ask,
To do it explicitly.
Is there a deadline? We may not have that luxury.
Well, the deadline isn't there. They're having their meeting.
What is BSA doing?
So BSA has a February 26th to 27th hearing. I will tell you that DOT is notoriously slow in these matters. So, by my estimation, there would probably be an additional month in the event of any change. It's very unlikely that BSA would issue with any kind of immediacy, but I don't want to speak for them, but it's just.
Right. So the general meeting is on our general meeting is on the 26th. So is on the 27th. So if by, Youth and Education is meeting on the 12th. If by the executive committee meeting, which is the 20th, which is the week following that, we don't have input, and I will certainly ask Domingo once again to give us anything well in advance of that. We can modify, the resolution, but let's be clear. Everyone on the committee knows they get via email the resolution to review and comment on. Some people do, some people do not. But we, in the course of reviewing the reso, once it is written, we will also have time to get input from Youth and Education. And for that matter, we can give it to them to review as well.
So is the language of the motion is we vote to approve subject to material objection from Youth and Education Committee?
Well, subject to input from the Youth and Education. That input could be that they materially object to it, or they could have conditions that they think should be added. We shouldn't, assume that the only thing they will do is a material objection.
The bilingual motion. Right?
To make the assignment clearer, and I think he was pretty clear anyway, when we get their input, we may revise what will still be a draft resolution, and we are all generally involved in that revision. So we should be able to provide something that by the general.
I just think passing that make smaller class sizes last month, I would think that there would be a need for school, so if like you,
That's
Yeah.
a very good point.
yeah, so it's just like, it makes.
Yeah, that's kind of what I said. Bruce, you have
Yeah.
your, Bruce Robertson, who's also a board member. Bruce, can you unmute? Bruce?
Yes, I'm on traffic and transportation, along with Jim Berlin. We met on Monday, and we thought this was a great proposal. And maybe Jim may disagree, but I thought we had approved it to forward to your committee. And
No, Jim shared that, yes.
so that's my opinion. Thank you.
Right, so we're saying that we already have input from traffic and transportation, and they're fine with it.
Let me just.
Yes,
Let me,
in my estimation.
let me introduce more technicalities. Technically, the Traffic and Transportation Committee sees
Sorry.
this as a land use issue. On some level, has no direct say in the matter. So.
We asked for their input, we got
Right.
it.
We got
Jim, we did about the traffic, and we discussed the traffic.
We got it, we got it. No need to go over this. We asked for the input, we got it.
Right. We did not have a vote. We did not pass a resolution.
Right.
nor should we.
Yeah, that's okay. OC,
Yeah, I would like to just add a sentence because few things were said numerous time in terms of the class sizes. Let's not forget the charter schools doesn't have to accept every student that show up at the door. So they can pick and choose who is coming in.
yeah, but that's not a land use issue.
I understand, but there were some remarks about the conversation that we had last month about the school
Yes.
size, the classes size. Okay, so I'm just saying it's not
Yeah,
us.
but we understand that, but I think when this was raised at the general meeting, someone else on youth and education or involved with it pointed out something regarding what charter schools either are required to do or typically do in terms of following DOE. But once again, this is what we're going to get from youth and education. This is not, land use doesn't need to be the be all and end all for every committee. What I was going to explain to the guest is, like at the general meeting, at the committee level, members of the public can vote on resolutions. So the way we typically do this is we first get a vote of the committee members, then we'll get a vote of any other board members who are present, and then members of the public who wish to vote can also do so. So beginning with the land use members, those in favor of the resolution as stated? Those opposed? Abstaining?
Oh, and OC.
I see her.
Oh, I don't know.
That, board members, so Bruce is only board member present, I see. In favor?
Yes.
Any board member opposed or abstaining? I don't see any other board members present. Members of the public, if you would like to vote, you can raise your hand digitally. Those in favor? Opposed? Well, actually, stop. So let me go back again. In favor? Opposed? Abstaining? Sabrina, you're abstaining? Let me do that again. And so for members of the public, don't take your hand down until I tell you. So if you're a member of the public and you're voting, if you're in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, Sabrina, you can take your hand down. Members of the public, if you're voting in opposition, please raise your hand. Graham, you can take your hand down. Members of the public, if you're voting abstaining, please raise your hand. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you. So
Thank you.
before we go to the next presentation, Jamila, can you now provide the update on the conversation that Carmen's office had with the developer?
Yes, it will be quick. It was a quick meeting.
Sure.
Okay. So this happened about the second week of January. Oh, well, hello, I'm from Carmen de la Rosa's office. I've been speaking, Jamila, Director of Community Affairs. We met with the Overlook Terrace developers. There's technically two addresses for that location because it's the top of the hill and the top of the hill and the bottom of the hill. In terms of questions that we asked them, and we just kind of wanted to know where they were in their stages of developing, because we've been getting a lot of inquiries from the surrounding community. They said that they're still kind of in the beginning stages. They still do not have a plan designed done for the space. They are open to having a community space where obviously it can be used by the community, but also by the residents. We asked if they're going to be exploring financial assistance from like the city, meaning are they going to do any affordable housing? They said that they're planning to explore that option, but didn't give us a definite answer. We asked, will there be a variance proposed? They sent no requests yet. And they would like to be connected with you guys, obviously, as a land use committee and other elected officials. I think that's about it. Any questions? Since I just kind of gave.
Just to be clear for the public that what was here, you're specifically talking about a location on 184th and Fort Washington?
Between Fort Washington and Overlook.
Yeah, the address is 35 Overlook Terrace, but there's technically two addresses for it. Because of the top of the hill and the bottom of the hill.
Right, and the site has frontage on both. Steve?
Yes.
Jamila, did the developers say that they were willing to come before this committee and make a presentation?
Yes. They want to be connected with you guys. So I'm waiting. I just needed the email to connect them with Wayne.
We're happy to connect with them. We've been trying to get contact information, although I believe over the years there have been changes in the development team, but we're happy to speak to them. Did you discuss there was a new rendering of a humongous project that was published in the last few months? And of course, newspaper articles are not always accurate, but it pointed out that this project was something the developer was ready to go with. So it sounds like that's not accurate.
They're in the beginning stages of starting like the whole process of designing, coming to you guys, seeing how much apartments they can build and all that stuff. I believe it's because, like you said, they had changed owners, or the prior developer was someone else. So the way that they made it seem to us is that they don't have nothing finalized yet.
Yeah.
But they are still talking about a pretty large building.
Yes, they are talking about, they're currently anticipating that the building will be at least 23 stories tall.
Well, that was the plan before.
18.
Well, I think
it was 18 before.
But it was sitting on a rock, so
no,
it was.
But I think it went up to 23 at some point.
It was 18 before, you're saying?
I mean, there are so many different iterations. So I'm talking about going back more than a decade. There was an 18-story red tower that was proposed, but it also was sitting halfway up the rock. So the 18-story was even taller, and that developer went bankrupt. So it didn't. But the very large project that was in the rendering is that large because it had a tremendous amount of community facility space. I have no doubt that there'll be a market for the residential, but the reason it's a 23-story building is because it's a mixed-use building and more than half of the building was community facility. So was there any discussion about who they see as renting over 100,000 square feet of community facility space?
No, they did not specify who they've been discussing it with. I also do not remember them discussing how much space they had, so I do want to go back and ask those questions for you guys to get more clarity.
I was gonna say, I wonder how the city of Yes would affect the development of the building as well.
Well, it wouldn't affect it because any zoning change is going to be, a year off. But it actually depends on how long it takes the development to move forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that the way that they made it seem, and I know that developers get to share what they want to share. They've seemed very like still in the initial phases. So I'm assuming it's going to take a few years for this project to obviously be done. But I'm gonna say, if they start construction this year, I'll be surprised.
My comment was that, they cannot do whatever the hell they want. They're very limited by the zoning that's currently there.
Which is R8.
What is R8?
Yes.
Oh, when did it become R8?
Everything west of Broadway is R8. And that's one of the reasons we asked city planning to change that.
My memory is that what they were planning to do was they had purchased the air rights from the synagogue. Now they've actually purchased the synagogue site itself. So what they had in mind, and the one reason why they were never going to come to us in the past, was that they didn't need us. They weren't requesting a zoning change of any kind. So the city of Yes zoning changes at this point they don't really matter, because what they were already what they have in mind is already allowed under the current zone. So that's one of the major problems with this thing. And as big as it is, it was still going to be as of right.
And that's because it's in an R8 district,
and
which allows almost double the density of R72 on the other side of Broadway.
And then they build on top of that by buying the air rights and now the additional site.
Okay, well, Jamila, thank you so much. We've been trying for months and months and months, probably more than that, to have someone get in contact with this developer. So, I was glad to hear from Catherine that Carmen's office got in touch, and if they are open to meeting with us, please send the contact information. We will make sure those connections are made.
Yeah, I'll add you and the developers. I think he's an assistant to an email thread and connect you guys, because that's the one thing that Carmen asked, is for them to come to community board and also other elected officials, so that everybody's getting the same information.
Right. And the other thing is, we have people who are reacting to images and blurbs they see in Patch or something that is online. And what we learn time and time again is many of these are, an artist's rendering of something, and it's not an actual development project. So what we want to know is what is actually proposed.
Yes, that's the reason why we started doing research on who the developer was and their contact information, because social media was being filled with questions and concerns regarding this area.
Right. Okay, well, thank you so much. Wait.
I have a question to you, Wayne. I'm looking at the website near Zola, and it shows as a R72. Is it
my understanding is everything west, but if that particular piece is R72, fine.
okay? I'm just asking just to see if it was like extended and the city's like taking.
Well, no, the city hasn't changed. The city hasn't changed anything there since 1960s. But as Steve was pointing out, it's a big site.
Yeah.
And they bought, air rights. So
they now own the same thing.
Yeah. So but it's a big site. So
which again indicates that your recollection from my point of view is not correct, because where I live, which is all west of Broadway, that's all R72, every bit of it. And in fact, that new building they're trying to build, they're starting to build across the street from one of our buildings. That was also R72.
We'll check the map.
Absolutely.
So the next item on the agenda is consideration of renovation and alteration proposal for 429 West 162nd Street, which is in the Jumel Terrace Historic District, which is why it's coming to land use, because that means it has to go before the Landmarks Preservation Commission. Who will be presenting for that?
Hi, my name is Damiano Geraci. I'm an architect. I'm one of the architects on the project. My associate Jeff Goodman is also on the line with us, and Mr. Maurice Gray, who is the owner of the property, is also on the line. So I'll be presenting. I'll share my screen right now.
And just for transparency's sake, I grew up with Mr. Gray and just know him in real life. So hi, Maurice.
I mean, you don't know his avatar, you know the actual person?
There.
And also, don't you live on the same block?
I do live on the same block, but Mr. Gray does not currently I don't want to shout out his business, but yes, I live, yes, also I live a couple houses down. Yes, true. But I just want to be.
And that currently is not.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay, so I'm going to start. The first slide I'm showing is this is from the package we submitted to Landmark. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You have the floor.
So this is a package we submitted to Landmarks. We started off with some photographs. So we have the property in red right in here, and the arrows are pointing to the various photographs we presented to Landmarks. So let me zoom to page and get you some photographs. So we have views from the various angles. What we're proposing includes building a bulkhead on the roof. So we have stairway access from the top floor to the roof. And so Landmarks is asking for this as far as sight lines and consideration for seeing the bulkhead from the street. So we've already built a mock-up and Landmarks has come to see it. They have no issues with it. So far, we are okay on that front, and we have the diagram that shows that it's pretty minimal sight line. We should not have anything viewed, and if it's an issue with the mock-up, if anything changes with Landmarks, we will certainly work with them. That's one set of photographs. The next set is some close-ups of the property itself. We have some front stoop views, conditions of the building itself. It was an SRO, and Russell, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's been empty for quite a while.
Correct. Yes, probably at least 10 years, if
10
not
years.
more.
Right. And so what we're proposing is we are going to change the building from an SRO to a two-family. The basement apartment will be an individual standalone apartment, and then we'll have a triplex, so first, second, and third floors with access to the roof. This is a site diagram and zoning axonometric that was created by Jeff, actually, and it's showing for landmark purposes, for zoning purposes, it's showing a view from the front and a view from the back. You'll see from the front, nothing is changing. Obviously, it's a landmark. We're not touching it. From the back, there is an existing extension at the back. We're modifying it. Currently, the extension is 1 story, comes out about 15 feet. We still have that 15-foot extension. We're keeping that portion, but we're proposing to add a 2nd story extension as well. So existing conditions plans. Basically, this is the interior. It's the typical old layout that everyone's familiar with in brownstones. So we've got cellar, basement, and first floors, and then second, third, and existing roof plan. And our proposal is basically to keep, like I said, the line of the existing extension comes out to there. What we want to do on the 2nd floor is take about half that and create another extension on that part with access to the roof of the 1st floor extension. So excavation wise, we're modifying the size of the extension only on the 2nd floor. The 1st floor pretty much remains the same with some change in egress so we can easily get out the back and into the yard and into the cellar itself.
I'm sorry, when you say extension, is that like an outdoor deck?
It's an outdoor existing extension, so it's an outdoor like 1-story room.
You know,
And,
like in Stephen Brownstone sometimes has the back portion that is not the full width of the building.
right.
Is
let me
it,
see that.
is it enclosed?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
You should have the drawings, Steve.
I saw it.
Okay.
but I couldn't make out exactly what was being proposed.
Yeah, so you can see it in this photo right here. Let me zoom into it.
So it's like
This is
yeah, that.
Yeah.
It's like a 1-story room on the first floor. They're proposing to keep it, and on the second floor, add a second level that's not as deep.
not as deep, right, but runs the width of the building.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
I'm sorry, the existing, the existing extension is actually at the basement level.
At the base, yes,
we
at the
only
garden.
add in-
Yes, sorry.
Yeah.
Yes,
So we only add into the first floor.
right. So we're actually adding, I'm sorry, you're correct. We're adding to the first floor, the technical first floor. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Joe. So basically you can see on the left is the basement plan, on the right is the first floor plans. We come off of the extension from the kitchen on the first floor, and we'll be on the roof deck of what is the basement. Second and third floors will basically be bedrooms. And then we're proposing to build the stair access to the roof. So there'll be a new bulkhead on the roof, access on the roof. We're proposing to just occupy the areas that we can. There is, of course, the area for fire path. So we're keeping that path for the fire department as required. And then
So
elevation
instead
wise,
of having a scuttle to the roof, you're actually going to have an actual stair.
an actual stair, correct. Right now it is a scuttle.
It's a little ladder and a hatch.
Oh,
Puddle butt.
No, the butt goes up this way.
Yes.
So here we have some side-by-side elevations of the existing front and rear and the proposed front and rear. So as you can see, basically the front pretty much remains the same with just some minor repairs on the stoop and I think the handrails. And then the back area is where we're adding the second story, well, I should say first floor extension with the deck, etc. This is section through the house, so you can see it again in section. First floor, or rather basement, I keep saying first floor, basement, and then upper area. And this is where the stair is that we're building to the roof, is right there. These are some details of the areas that we were just talking about, showing foundation depths and technical info for the building department. Of course, we're proposing to use windows and materials that Landmarks, of course, will approve. We, of course, will submit them samples, and we're going to be presenting to the Landmarks Commission as well. So they will be reviewing all of this. And that is pretty much it. It's a pretty simple application considering.
Could you go back to the images that show the mock-up of the bulkhead from the street?
Yes, let me go to that. So this is the axonometric, so the mock-up.
No, the actual photos.
Oh, the actual photo. Yes, that's the
Right.
section.
Because I mean, the elevation, you could see the mock-up, but it's not clear to me how much of that you can actually see from the street.
Right. So this is our section, and Jamel Terrace actually slopes up a little bit. So we're up from the street about 200 feet. So even when you're that far up, the sight line is pretty much that you not see the top
Right.
of it.
So which of the photos is showing the mock-up? And actually, the trees block it too.
Yes, the trees block it too. Yeah, we don't have photos of the mock-up here, I believe. We did not submit that to Landmarks. Landmarks asked us to build that afterwards, and they just came to see it
okay.
about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. All right. Questions? Dan?
Any like front renovation, no front facing?
So you're not doing anything that's changing the front facade?
No changes to the front facade, just repairs.
Okay.
Okay, OC?
Yeah, could you please repeat again, how much square footage do you add in the back?
Let me find out a second. Let me zoom into that. So the current extension is 10'6" by 15 feet. We're adding half of that, so 10'6" by 7'6".
Mhm.
So 10, let's figure 11 times, about 88 square feet at the most.
88 square feet, okay. Okay,
Daniel?
Can you see the backyard area? No, right? No, it's like buildings.
And that, from the perspective of Landmarks, it is the street front that is designated. The interior is not designated, except in, if you like, the Morstermill Mansion, the interior is designated, and the backyard is not designated.
Yeah, the only reason why I asked is because I've seen like one of those landmark meetings, and they were trying to renovate a building out in Brooklyn. And I think since the back sheet doesn't have like doesn't have like
It was visible.
yeah, so like that was like one of the things that they asked about, because they were adding a bulkhead at top.
Right, but as you could see in this block, I mean, it's the typical configuration where there are buildings on either side. So I mean, if 163rd Street, if there were, let's say a vacant lot there or a park, you would be able to see. But even then, it's not clear unless in the designation report, the rear yard and the rear facade is mentioned, it wouldn't be. Although I think in the Village there, or maybe Brooklyn Heights, but I think it was in the Village, there was a proposal that even though it was the rear facade, some of the commissioners thought they were making too much of a change. They were basically taking out all of the masonry and making sort of a steel and glass rear facade, and they thought that was changing the original fabric of the building too much, even though the rear yard isn't that. But here they're not doing anything that dramatic.
Just the inside of it, right?
Yeah, I mean, they are adding a second extension of it. Like it's like 80 feet. It's barely, well, I mean, it's a legal room, but it's like 88 square feet.
And we did
Answers the question, that's all.
we did present that option to Landmarks anyway, because we know that they want to know what's seen from the street. So there is an alleyway along the side here, and we did strike a sight line. The alleyway does not change. The alleyway does not allow us to actually get back to where the building will be. So the red rectangle down here is the building itself. And if you're looking down that alleyway, you will not see that building.
You shouldn't be in the alleyway anyway. Steve?
Could we go back to the slide that shows the fencing proposed for the backyard?
Sure.
Yeah. So I don't know. This it just doesn't. Yeah. See, it doesn't strike me as a appropriate fencing for this type of landmark block. Is this really what
It looks better than what they have.
I don't think so. So.
Oh,
They had a picture.
Well.
let's go back and see the existing conditions.
Well,
Or just to sort of say is that like, if it's not visible from the front, owning, I have my own interest, that's just, what are we to say what they do with the type
yeah,
of
no,
tear down fencing in the backyard?
no, yeah. I
I'm
mean,
just
no,
saying,
it's,
I come before y'all better not
Yeah,
mess with my fence, I'm just saying.
I mean, if landlords.
Y'all come with any kind of fence, we're gonna say,
He wants to live there, that's why.
No, when Steve builds his own townhouse, he makes much nicer fence, okay?
Yeah, so that's the existing,
Better than that.
Well, maybe.
well, for some of us, we think the existing condition would be improved by what is shown.
Well, it would be nice to have something that might have a little more. If landmarks doesn't care, then I agree, we don't. It's
You
not-
do have a point though, where it's just like, it looks more modern, you know?
Well.
I don't know, but.
Well,
You gotta
That's actually
keep
just one of the
that
options.
we, this is their private space that the city ain't got nothing to do with.
Yeah.
Doobity do and doobity da.
so is there
I
anything,
love it.
yeah. And it probably will not be exactly that because it's not gonna be open to the other yard, I'm sure.
Right, we're actually just showing a couple of options here, so we have. the rear
Right, so
yard
it's not gonna be that per se,
Yeah.
maybe more on the left than the right.
Maybe they'll come up with something that will annoy Stephen even more.
Yeah,
And
like-
when they put it in the backyard, they don't have to present to.
Like a brick yard, a brick wall.
No, the only other thing I object to is the caption on one of the photos that refers to Jumel Avenue instead of Terrace.
Oh, yes, it is Jamel Terrace.
Oh, thank you. But apart from that, I move that we support this proposal.
Am I allowed to vote on this or no?
Yes, you can.
There's no, you don't own the building.
Okay, no, I just
Maybe you
because
were
I
bidding
didn't.
on it.
No, I just,
Again, and you're a lawyer, you can check the consequences.
No, there's no conflict.
Basically,
I think I can, but I'll double
Right.
check.
and then we'll just.
Amend based upon it. Okay.
Do you have any business with?
No, I just know him as a human.
No, that's
Fine.
Sure, humanity.
The bottom line, most of the time, is if you or your cronies are gonna make money,
No. But just.
then you probably say.
So we have
The
a,
value of your building will be improved.
Yeah.
After this is done.
True.
so,
Well, if you wanna double check, by all means. double
No,
check.
I'll call and check.
Not bad.
I'm gonna choose to vote, let the board know my nascent interest, they're very small.
yes.
And if I'll call the.
So this is a gut renovation. This is.
Well, yeah, I mean, if it used to be an SRO and they're
Yeah,
changing it to a
yeah,
two-family
yeah.
house,
This is a-
10 years.
yeah. and
Right,
just,
Again, what they do inside the house, none of our business.
well,
No, but it's.
No.
But it's a major investment in improving this property.
yes, it is.
More housing.
Thank
more
you.
housing.
It's amazing that property in this location was vacant for so long, because I would have bought it, but I didn't know. So,
And also the fact that, you know, basically, as they pointed out, all of these changes will not be visible from the street.
so we have a resolution that's moved in second. Committee members who are in favor, please raise your hand.
I made the motion.
OC is gone.
Maybe you should.
I
pay
will, we'll wait for OC to come back. Board members who are in favor. Bruce, I think that's a yes.
Yes, yes.
I'm back, sorry.
OC, how do you, it was moved in
Yes.
second. How do you vote?
Yes. Yes.
Who's got the Hispanic Society Interior?
Bruce.
Oh,
Bruce.
oh.
So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
That's
6,
where he lives.
7, 8. Va bene. Any members of the public who would like to vote in favor, please raise your hand. 3. Take your hands down, thank you. Any members of the public who are voting in opposition, please raise your hand. Any members of the public who are voting, who are abstaining? Thank you much. And when is LPC scheduled to consider this?
They're
Is
waiting
it-
for this meeting to happen first, so assuming that we can get onto their March calendar, March at the earliest, perhaps April.
Okay.
So it's okay if we vote on this at our February 27th meeting?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, if they're going to, consider it in March, then, we can have it to them by then. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. I just want to comment that I wholly support the use of the va bene. It's excellent.
The use of what?
Va bene, va bene. Okay, in Italian.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. Have a good
You're
evening.
quite welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Take care. Do we have any old business? And Steve?
You can read the minutes about comment.
Yeah, Steve can read the minutes about the BSA approving the Cumming Street application on January 22nd.
Without any money.
Well, I mean, the project as it was presented to us April of last year had modifications. So the project as approved, just to reiterate, it's an 8-story building, 121 units, 49 parking spaces. So that was a change from the original. It has a 69-foot 4-inch base height and an 89-foot 8-inch total height. And it's 87,673 square feet. So I think it's 1 story less. It has parking and it may have not as many units. But that's the scope of the approved project as of January 22nd.
How many stories?
8. Is there any old business? But not Cumming Street? Is there any new business?
Yes.
One,
Hi,
once,
everyone. Oh,
one
I'm so
second.
sorry.
Yeah.
Speaking of killing trees, I want to report something that happened yesterday and today. That at the Hispanic Society, at the open green space, the only open green space on Audubon Terrace. All
For the minutes, would you identify yourself?
Sondela, Elizabeth Sidney, starting yesterday, they proceeded to remove all the trees, the green space, the only green space on Audubon Terrace. And
on
156th Street. So I thought they were maybe done yesterday when all the equipment left and 3 of the trees were removed nearest the fence. But today they proceeded full force, and so I went to call 311. I asked what the information was happening. They told me to go ask myself or ask the foreman. So I asked the foreman, and he referred me to Hispanic Society. But the Hispanic Society was closed today, so there was no way to go ask what was happening. But then I called the tree company and spoke to 3 people, and I have here what was said. I asked why there was no. I asked to see the work permit, and they said they didn't have it to show. And then tree service said, as a neighbor, I'm not really entitled to see it. And when you pass buildings, there's always the work permits posted for what's happening on the property.
That's building department.
The building department, okay. Yeah. So it just left me, not knowing, but asking what was happening with why the trees were being removed.
Yeah, so Vivian shared this with Steve and I earlier today, and I reached out to a contact at the Hispanic Society who used to be a board member. And for everyone's information, the trees are not street trees, in which case that would be a problem for the parks, or it would be something the parks department. These are trees that are actually on the private property. And so I was informed that the trees were dead or diseased, and they're trees on Hispanic Society property, but they were beginning to encroach on the adjacent church's property, which is why they were taken down. And I was also told that the Hispanic Society informed the board office of this in advance of doing it. So, and this is reminiscent of a couple of conversations we had recently where folks wanted property across from where you live, privately owned site, to remain open as a park, which isn't a land use issue, and also the Coliseum site. My suggestion would be to reach out directly to Ebenezer, the district manager, because if it was reported to them, how they handle sharing that information is not something the land use committee would deal with. And a private property owner taking down trees on their property isn't a land use or a zoning, matter. But it's interesting that, information was given to the community board office, but we had to do our own investigation to find out that it was provided.
I mean, the sign that they had posted said the tree removal was 7th day through the 13th, but they started taking them down yesterday on the 6th. And, I also see today that there's damage to the fence, the ironworks, 2 places on the top are crushed. But it just seemed, when I say, with the Hispanic Society concerned with the perception of the neighborhood towards them, that there was just no information beforehand that this is what and why is happening. It would have been appreciated that if those are valid reasons, it just seemed, I don't know how to put it.
Steve went first.
Well, let me say the fact that the board officers who live in that immediate neighborhood receive this information is I don't want to just put that on Mitch.
I already forwarded the information to the office.
Oh, yeah, well, but did you get was there any excuse for why you?
Did I get a response yet, Steve? No, stop it.
Okay. All right, well, this is a real issue, because then we could at least maybe try to notify other people. But secondly, I assume you spoke to Natalie. Did Natalie indicate whether or not there's some future plan for this spot? Is there some other work that they're planning to do?
I asked Natalie what was going on at the site, and was something being built, and she responded that the trees were dead or diseased and they were encroaching upon the church, which is a separate, once again, property, and that's why they were taken down.
I can imagine that.
I cannot speculate.
I know, but the trees weren't all next to the church. Well, maybe one of them was, but it could very well be that this is a precursor to some other work.
And if it is a precursor to other work, and once again, let's be honest and open with the conversations we've had. Since it's I see your hands. Since it's a historic district, as we were just talking about with LPC, if they're going to build anything there, LPC's approval is required so that it will have to come, before
that's
the board.
Then that's what I was just about to say.
But we know this, and we've said that.
Well, maybe not everybody.
But that's why I reiterate. But we should.
Very much on high alert, in part because of the stuff, the changes to that street, or that the Academy of Arts and Letters is also talking about. So they know who we are. It's something that we should have been able to disseminate around the neighborhood. There's just big equipment on the street. I feel like they're always trying to avoid us, and the neighborhood is becoming more and more afraid or energized, wanting to know what's going on in those institutions as they continue to leave dirt behind the buildings and not deal with being good neighbors.
Tuesdays, just to address your point in terms of like, there might be a lack of communication. I wonder if this is actually not better suited for the Parks and Cultural Affairs Committee in terms of, I know that sometimes there's been issues of communication between other cultural institutions in the neighborhood with the neighborhood.
Right.
And this sounds like it feels like a little bit of this is, we weren't notified, and that feels troubling and a pattern of behavior that in terms of bringing the community together with an existing institution, I know that is being worked on with other institutions in the neighborhood right now, with Parks and Cultural Affairs, and maybe this particular issue, especially
So we're landmarked and so are they, and part of the issue is them encroaching on our landmark.
No, I just prevent the crosstalk.
Yeah.
No, no. But I guess the thing is that in that part, it's been addressed because it was private. The trees are on private land, but I want to get to the actual issue is that they're doing stuff and nascent, not nascent, I keep using it, nascent, and not explicitly informing us, and therefore that liaison might better be addressed through parks. That was
through Parks and Culture, because it's not a park, but it is culture, and it's a culture. So that makes a lot of sense. But also, as Steve said, the extent to which the institution shared information with the board office and we didn't get it, that is also, problematic. Actually, OC has her hand up, so we'll get to you as well.
Okay.
OC?
Yes, so I have two questions that I think we should ask the office to give us an answer. If they can tell us what trees got removed in terms of the type of tree, what was it? If it was disease, we need to know. Not just us, also park should know about that.
But it's not a park.
I understand. I'm asking about information about the trees that were removed from this private property. If there are some, like a Dutch elm disease, for example, there are some trees that need to be inoculated. I don't know. So we have to think about that. So we should find out what trees got removed in terms of the type of trees and what were their condition, and if there was a professional arborist that signed on that. The other thing is it's not always that private property can do whatever they want with trees. If the trees were close to, and I don't know for specifically how close it has to be to the sidewalk, then they do have to get an approval from the city before they remove a tree. So there may be ways to find.
You have the gentleman from Parks Department shaking his head saying no.
Yeah, I mean, so Steve, it's.
Well, you can have a side conversation with that.
Exactly.
Jim?
I want to reiterate Tracy's point, both in terms of having our Parks and Cultural Affairs Committee involved, and there's this general principle that it would be best if our cultural institutions, all of our institutions, communicated better with the community. So this is something that we should press. On the other hand, trees on private property are the property of the people who own the land. They can cut them down, they can hang things on them, they can do whatever they want. They don't have to tell anyone anything about it. They're their trees. And that's just, and then you don't need probably a work permit. Maybe with a really tall tree that could endanger things, maybe DOB would get involved. But normally, it's your tree and you can cut it down. Now, ideally, we as individuals like trees and all of that, but again, they're not our trees, they're not on our property, and we should keep them. Let me just make the more general point. We are the government, and on some level, we have to watch out when we're being overly intrusive. People do have rights. We are not in charge of everything.
Yep.
So keep that in mind.
I think it's also important to, and this is, I'm reminded of something when I first came on the board under Virginia Fields. We had one of these exercises, which I don't think they do anymore. The institutions that are within community districts are also members of that district, and they have interests and rights as well. And as someone who actually sits on the board of one of the cultural institutions, sometimes the information that is shared with the community board by the community, and community is never singular, it's always plural, isn't always as complete as it should be. So you're getting piece of that. But I think it would be great to have Parks and Culture, help with further engagement. Although I must say that the Hispanic Society, over the years that I've been on the committee, and you as well, they've outreached to us, quite a bit. So I don't think it would be fair or accurate to say that the Hispanic Society, as a rule, has not reached out to and spoken to us at all. So let's not, go too far in the other direction.
True that they've been talking about wanting to put a loading dock there, which is this is a precursor to it by taking
And
down the tree.
if they do that,
They better be here.
if they do that, it would be subject to landmarks review, and we know that.
Right.
If you're gonna build something there, then that would have to go through landmarks, and a new building, in particular, landmarks would insist the community board opine on it. I mean, if landmarks requires someone who is, changing, some architectural detail on their facade with another material, if they require us to opine on that, if you're building a new building in a historic district, they're going to require us to opine on that.
I think at 1.1, renovations at that place at the Hispanic Society, and just like putting a ramp.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but that's in place. Those are temporary ramps in the terrace area, and they came to us with that. So the ramp and the change. But anyway, so yeah. Audrey had another matter of new business.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. We just wanted to check in about submitting the resolution for CEO. There were two ULURP numbers under which the same resolution should be submitted. I've spoken with Ebenezer and with Paula, and we're trying to coordinate the submission under one of the two ULURP numbers. One has been submitted and the other is still outstanding. So I just wanted to flag that. And also, the community boards have the option of voting on the gaming facility text amendment. A resolution was submitted for under that ULURP number, but it was the same resolution for carbon neutrality. Anyway, I think there might have been a mix-up in records, so I just wanted to flag that just to make sure that if you are going to have an optional vote on the gaming facility text amendment, that gets lodged in the proper portal, and then B, in order for the ZEO resolution to be recorded, it also needs to be uploaded to.
I saw your emails to the office. The committee is not the entity that's actually logging into the portal and uploading the resolution.
Right.
So you really need to speak to Ebenezer or Paula directly. I saw that there are, in fact, two zoning text numbers, and they just need to go in and upload the same resolution under the other number as well. I am absolutely unaware of the gaming text amendment to which you refer.
Okay. That is it was mainly, it's a citywide text amendment, community boards, where casinos are being considered. We're briefed on this by our office. All other boards have the option to vote on it, but there is, but that's where it stands right now.
But my question is, when was that sent? You recall that when we were commenting, when we sent initial questions on the City of Yes for Economic Opportunity, one of the things I pointed out is during the information session in September, there was a proposal that dealt with gaming facilities. And then when it was formally released, that was pulled out, and it was indicated that it was going to be further discussion. I have no notice of a separate text amendment just for the gaming text being sent.
So, Wayne, I don't know if you recall, but I briefly discussed this last time we were presenting on it. I went through the map. Yeah, you're right. The gaming facility text amendment got pulled from the economic opportunity because it was going to be more tied to the actual state licenses, and the process is a separate process that is going to deal with separate requirements that are being put by the state and the city in place. What happened here is, I believe, and I don't want to assume, but perhaps has been an error when submitting the resolutions, and one of the resolutions was sent to the gaming facility. Me and Audrey talked and said, let's double check that this was perhaps an error or not, or if you guys wanted to provide an approval or disapproval for the game.
We have not commented or discussed the gaming text amendment at all. So once again, please contact the office, contact Ebenezer, or send them an email to clarify what are the correct text amendment numbers under which the respective, we already did carbon neutrality last year, and we just did economic opportunity, which actually has two. Please just confirm with them what those numbers are, and if by chance they submitted carbon neutrality under the gaming, whatever it is. But once again, that's not something at the committee level that we do. It's by the office. And I think even when Paola tried to do it, the way it was set up is it's Ebenezer's email that is registered as the contact for CB12. So she couldn't even go in and do it. She had to wait until he came back, either that or he had to completely set CB12 up again in the system.
Right. That is, yeah.
Going back to the general topic about optional comments to the gaming facility. So when is the latest we can comment on that? Because I don't think this committee has had a.
We haven't seen anything.
We haven't seen anything. Recognizing it's optional, I think some of us would be interested in hearing more and possibly passing a motion either in favor or against.
Yeah, today, and I can say the recording to the board, today was another public hearing on the gaming facility. It has been moving along. The vote process or the testimony that you can say probably is going to be going up for another month. The vote has not been scheduled. I am not 100% sure if we are doing public review sessions as we do when the referral is in process, because the gaming facility text is already back to the commission for similar to City of Yes for economic opportunity. They're kind of running in a similar timeline.
Yeah, but if someone could be so kind as to send the information to us, what that text amendment is, and information on what the timeline is, we will determine whether that's something we want to look at. And, we can certainly, if it's going on for another month, try to get something in on our March agenda. But as I'm saying, at this juncture, I have no information on it.
Yeah, I can definitely send that info. And there is no casino that's being planned for Community Board 12. And this is particularly for community boards where operators have put in a bid for licenses. Those boards have been briefed, and we would be happy to share any and all information we have on that.
Well, I think Steve has.
All right, so this doesn't affect any of our churches that hold casino nights?
No, that was part of the economic opportunity one.
Yeah, exactly.
Home-based casino.
Okay.
Listen, in the same way that we're reaching out to the developer of the 23-story building at 184th and Overlook, could we also reach out to the developer of the building at 4452 Broadway at 190th Street to find out what's going on with that project? They began construction and stopped, and nothing's been happening there for quite a long time, evidently.
Do we have contact information for the developer?
They came before us at some point. HAP Partners, I believe it was. They made presentations to us. We did 4452 Broadway at 190th Street. We voted on a resolution about this project.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean we have contact information for them, so we can certainly see what information or whose contact information the office has.
Well, we could also check the HAP website, or whatever.
Yeah, if that's not corporate, but anyway. So,
Can I ask a question about
4452 Roller.
about the gaming amendment? Because I'm just like looking at looking online, and I'm looking that from C4 to 8 and manufacturing from 1 to 3, you can, and we
yeah,
can.
I have no information on it. I can't answer questions on something I have no
Well, the
information.
only thing I will say though is last time he presented, he showed a map with our district and there were blotches where this, whatever, would possibly allow.
There are areas with zoning
Yeah.
that would permit it. But apparently, from what we're hearing, the text amendment is more geared towards areas where developers or operators are submitting. The state is going through this process for a couple of casinos.
Yeah.
And it's probably in those community boards where it's for, but when we get the information, we'll have something to look at.
Well, there are three, if I remember correctly, there are 3 casinos that are planned for the downstate area. 2 of them are basically have been pre-selected, and there's a huge competition going on for the 3rd one. Nobody is proposing to build one of these in our district.
You never know.
No,
So-
you do know.
Actually, I've attended some of those presentations, and actually at the Washingtonites Inwood Business Improvement last year, there was a presentation. So Times Square is one location, over by the Javits Center is another location, and over at Willits Field is a 3rd location. I think also at, the Nassau Coliseum or
Yes,
something like that might be one.
and there's one on the east side below the UN.
I didn't know about that.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
there's a huge empty site there.
Is there a such thing as a
Multi-link.
is that a thing?
I know.
I don't know. Just a question.
Yeah, well, it's called going to Steve's house for poker night. Yes.
There
So,
are
if-
8 applications, each
that
application. Sorry, I said there are 9 existing applications for the casinos. There are only 3 licenses. As you know, like the process with this text amendment is the text will only be passed with these applications in mind. So once that text is approved, nobody submits an application saying by the end of the vote, the approval of city council, no other application can come in place for another casino. So
Yep.
that is and all. So those 9 applications will be the deciding factor for these 3 licenses.
Yeah.
And I believe only one is going to be allocated for New York City.
Right, so there's no overriding reason for us to pass something, but if we would like to, once we get the information, we are free to do so. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
And K hora es, it's 9:21 PM, we are adjourned.
Has anyone seen that?
No one seconded.
Take care all.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care.
Have a good night.